Hello and welcome to Billy's Craft Room. This tutorial is part of my online workshop series, Adventures in Acrylics. For more information about this, please visit the blog. In an earlier film, I introduced you to De La Rowney's Shimmering Colours. These are interference acrylic paints. In this film, I'm going to show you some exciting ways to mix them with your existing colour palette. For this project, I'm working on a non-stick craft sheet, and the shimmering colours I'm using are gold and green. I'm also using Winsor & Newton Galleria Flow Formula acrylic paint. The colours are crimson and hooker's green. The surface I'm painting onto is mount board. I've got a piece which is black on one side and white on the other. This is because the paints react differently depending on the colour surface that you put them on. I'm going to mix the paint using a palette knife. It's a lot easier to mix paint using one of these than it is to load up your brush. You'll need a jar of water and a piece of rag to clean your tools. I'm using a white enamel plate to mix the colours on. To begin with, I'm going to paint some of the shimmering green interference colour onto the black card. Although it looks quite pale on the palette, as soon as you apply it over a dark surface, the interference colour really shows through. Especially when the light hits it. I'm just going to clean the knife in the water and wipe off any excess paint onto the rag. The next colour is hooker's green. Now if I apply that over a black card, you can barely see it. It really doesn't show up at all. But look what happens when we mix the two. I've already got the dark green on the palette knife, and I've just picked up a small amount of the shimmering colour. You can vary how light or dark the green comes out, depending on how much of the darker tone you add to it. Now when I apply this over the black card, you get a different result again. The green looks almost metallic. By comparison to the original shimmering colour, it's also darker. When I apply it on the white card, the green still shows up as a metallic colour. And just for some comparison, that's what the original paint colour looked like. Don't forget to clean your palette knife between colours. The next colour up is the Shimmering Gold. I have to say, it is my favourite. If you apply that onto the white card, it's very subtle. You do see the gold when the light hits it, but it is subtle. However, when you paint it over a dark surface or a black card, the gold really pops. Now let's mix the two together. This time I've added a small amount of crimson to a large amount of interference gold. As you can see, the mix is a lot paler, but you can vary that depending on how much red you add to the mix. And here's how that looks painted onto the white card. Because there's a large amount of gold, it is quite pale, but you can still see the flip of gold in there. It's looking a little salmon on this one. Let's compare it on the black card. Now you can see how reflective the colours are on the darker surfaces. Here's a closer look at some of the samples of the colour mixes. This one is the interference colour over black, and this is the hooker's green mixed with the interference colour. By comparison, this is a white card, and I've painted the mix at the bottom, and across the top here I painted a panel of hooker's green, just straight colour, and overlaid the shimmering colour over it. It gives a completely different effect. Another great way to use interference colours is with Embossed Card. If you've got a Cuttlebug machine or similar, try running black card through your favourite embossing folder and then applying the interference colours over the raised sections. This gives a really beautiful effect. This one's the green, the blue, and the red. Don't be afraid to use more than one interference colour on the same project. In this one I've used the blue and the violet. And I've used pretty much every colour on this one. But it's my favourite folder and they're my favourite paints, so it had to be done. Think you'll agree, it gives a rather beautiful result. This one's going to become a book cover. Next up, a bit of a sneak peek of some of the other projects that you can find in this series. There's a brushed metal effect, a rather beautiful regal looking distressed purple, and once I've shown you round a few mediums, you'll be able to create a really dimensional effect like this one. These final two pieces were actually created using Golden's fluid acrylic paints in their interference colour range, but it's just to show you how the projects look when you mix the paints with your original palette. Just because the interference paints are really bright doesn't mean you can't still do grunge. Both these projects were painted onto Tim Holst grunge board. See in these projects that although the interference is quite subtle, it really shows up when the light hits it. I hope you enjoyed today's film and that you try some of the colours in the interference range. Have fun experimenting, and just remember, it's all about the journey. I'll see you next time for some more adventures in acrylics. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye bye. For more inspiration, please visit the blog on www.billiescraftroom.co.uk.